So now we're going to take a look at the vocals. So I've sampled two different vocals in this track. The first one sounds like this. Obviously that's really clean, sounds very different to the final release. And then we've also got this other vocal as well, which I've chopped up. And you can see what I've done with this one is I've just copied and pasted it so you get this kind of glitch. But what we're going to talk about is the processing of these vocals and how I took them from like an original sound where they're quite clean and then made them into something a bit more unique using Spectral Resonator. So I'm just going to hit play. So that's clean, and then put the Spectral Resonator on, we get this, which is really cool. So what we're doing there is, again, putting it into the note mode. So F sharp is obviously the key of the whole track, and I put this into F sharp. And then what you can also do is mess with the decay. It's a bit like using the vocoder, but it sounds so much better. It's great for electro. And then I'm not really using these, but you can mess with them as well, or the harmonics, or the chorus, but I've left this straight down the center. And you can see I've got it on 100% wet there. So really simple stuff, just using Spectral Resonator. Normally I do loads of crazy processing on vocals, but I just feel like I've really grown to like the Spectral Resonator recently. And it just doesn't need anything else. It just sounds really nice with that one. The next thing is processing. So what I've done is added Arturia's FET76 compressor, and then all I do every single time that I add vocals, whether it's a live vocalist that I've recorded or whether it's a sample or a loop, even if it's from an actual record where it's already been compressed, I'll just go straight in here to a presets, go on the vocal pop setting, and then you can see with all these presets they have a range that changes. So if let me just duplicate this a second, I'll show you how I would set it up. So we'll just get a fresh one like this. If I go to any preset on here, you can see that bar, that green bar, changes the amount. Now, for each of the different presets, that's like a target area. And if you hit the middle, it's usually like a really good area to hit to get the right reduction amount. So you can see with the vocal pop one, what I'll do is I'll put it on like that. And then I would just bring up the input until it's kind of hit in the middle like that. So that's pretty much it, and then you just level match it with the output as well. Make sure perceived loudness is similar to what was going in. And then let's have a look at EQ. So, because we've got a lot of bass elements in this, or a lot of bass in the track, what I wanted to do was just make sure I was scooping out that 400 to like 200 hertz area, just to allow the bass to cut through a little bit more. So if we turn this off, let's just solo the vocal. See, on its own it makes it sound more thinner, but once you've got the bass in there, sounds thicker without that on, but obviously what I'm doing is just creating space for the bass. Didn't mean to rhyme then. And then we've also got standard clip again. I've started using this on everything now, just to kind of chop off any peaks that are popping through. I just feel like the more I do on my side, it's a bit unconventional actually. It's like, you know, like old classic producers probably rip the shit out of me for doing this, but it just works. I don't care. Like, if you think about some of the most forward thinking producers at the moment, they all do stuff that 10-20 years ago you would have got so much stick for doing from like professional mixing engineers. But then, you know, we've seen, even though it's not my kind of music, even you see people like Skrillex and stuff like absolutely pushing stuff to the max. And he's one of the biggest in that kind of genre. And to be fair, I've got to give him credit because he started working with like Boys Noise and stuff now. And he's releasing tunes that I actually really, really like. But that's a guy who's like really pushed it unconventionally and done stuff that you shouldn't I've done, and I've always been afraid to do that for quite a while, up until like the last couple of years, where I've just gone like looking at other producers and thinking actually they're just like absolutely ramming stuff, and like they're getting these really cool sounds that are like massive, like really smashed, and not just compressed to the point where you're trying to make your master louder, but I mean like compressed where it's actually part of the creative process and the creative sound. I found like clipping gives like a really nice crunch to the sound as well. So yeah, with this, obviously we're not using it in that way, we're just using it to basically just lob off anything that's popping its head out. So you can see there, that bit right there is a great example. So you got this like little spike, and it's like it's not serving any purpose at all. I could use a compressor, but a compressor's a bit too slow. But let's just look at the output, right? So if we turn it off again, we've got minus 10.1. It fluctuates as well. So we put that on, and then we get minus 13.6. We just saved like a load of headroom there, and we haven't. I don't feel like it's a detriment to the sound at all. In fact, I think half the time it actually helps it. So yeah, that I feel like the more I do on my end, the less work the mastering engineers, compressors, and limiters have to do, which means I get a much kind of better, punchier, clearer sound. Because if you think, right, when you give your mastering engineer an export of the whole track, and he takes that, and then he puts his limiter and his compressor on, every time one of those little spikes pops out on all of the tracks, there'll be like little spikes popping out everywhere. Every time that happens, them compressors and them limiters are kind of pushing a little bit, and that's pushing down on not just that little spike, but everything, the whole sound. It's like sometimes taking the kick down and stuff like that. So I feel like the more I kind of like shave off now, the better the master's going to be when I get the master back. And I found since I've started doing this, the masters come out a lot better. So yeah, we're just cutting that off. And then lastly, we have got the chorus by Arturia, so chorus Dimension D. Absolutely love this. It sounds great on bass. We could have used the Spectral Resonator chorus, but I didn't like what it was doing because I wanted to have a bit of a dry and wet. If this had dry and wet, which it does there, but I don't want that drying. I want this to be my dry, and then I want to add the chorus, but I didn't have a way of doing a dry wet with the chorus, which is why at the end of the chain I then added chorus Dimension D, which sounds great. With this, what have I done? Let's have a look. So if we go to advanced settings, you can see dry wet around 30-ish%, stereo up all the way to 100. I've just left that smooth. You can't really go wrong with this plugin. I always put it around 30% full stereo, and it always sounds great. If I go to full wet, it's really wide, but I feel like at around 30%-ish, it gives me a good balance between the mono signal and the width. So you can see if I put it all the way up, it's all like going out of phase and stuff. So yeah, I just find that's a really good place for me to put it. Didn't want to make the vocal too wide in this track, which is unique to this track, because normally my vocals are like really, really super wide. I make them really wide. So yeah, that's Vox 1, but then let's just take a look at the variations of Vox 1. So we've obviously got this main line where it's just saying the dope, and then we've also got a line in it which is kind of like weird. Really like that. And then we've also got this bit which is in like the breakdown. So yeah, that's vocal 1. Let's take a look at vocal 2 again. So vocal 2. Now I'll put this vocal in because it's got that kind of punk attitude about it. Because I feel, actually, I've made a bit of a booby there, you see, because what I've not done is housekeeping. So we can do that now. We can use it as a lesson. This release is gone now, so it's gone out with this pops and clicks, but do you know what? It doesn't matter. But yeah, you can see there at the end. Listen to that. Let's just play it from here again. Yeah, this like at the end. So what we need to do is go in and just make sure that you are doing this, which I haven't done, and I feel silly now. So yeah, you want to kind of like go in and just make sure that there's no bits basically where, let me just have a look at this and see if I can explain it a bit better. You see how I always take these things for granted, you know, like stuff that I've learned. I just never explain them, and I take them for granted. But see how you've got this like line there? That's your left channel and that's your right channel. You've got these lines. And as the audio passes the 0 crossing point, which is there, that means it's hit 0 on the meter. So if you did that and didn't put any curve on it like that, you would get away with it because it's not going to pop. You're not going to get an artifact. But there, because the sound has not gone back, the waveform's not gone back to that 0 crossing point, that's when you get that kind of click sound. Unless you do that, add in the volume fade, and that brings it back to 0, as you can see there. That's 0, that's off. So yeah, what I would recommend is, if I wanted to fix this, obviously in the mix I couldn't really hear it and I was rushing it a bit, but what I would do normally, it's a bit time consuming, is just go in like this. And if we listen back to it now, that should sound alright. Apart from that bit, obviously. A lot better. So yeah, I should have done that really in the original. But yeah, the Vox. So let's look at the Vox, right? So it sounded quite punky, and then this bit as well. I love that bit. So what we've done with this is use raw. Make it really punky. It's actually not a punk track. It's actually sampled from Memphis rap. So it's not supposed to sound like this, but I've made it sound like this. So it sounds more like a punk singer now. Now initially I was gonna use the spectral resonator for this as well, and I did at first, but then I found like I wanted this kind of like raw, dry punk vocal sound. So I just left it raw and dry. And then let's look at the EQ. So simple stuff, just shaving off the lower frequencies and the top frequencies again. Using Soothe 2 because obviously I'm adding a lot of harmonic content, a lot of distortion into the mix. So with this, if we just click delta so we can have a listen, you hear it there when it goes twist. There, that frequency there, right? So what I'm doing, just balancing it a little bit. Without it, it gets quite harsh in the 2K area. And then again, using the FET 76. Don't need to go over it again, just getting it in the middle around -3 dB. And then audio rack, we have got, so let's listen to this channel first. So we're just using Valhalla Vintage Verb with a short dark snare room, reverb. I just felt it was a bit too dry. Let's take that chorus off a second. So with that on, just gives it that room sound, because I wanted it to sound like it was recorded raw in like a live practice room or something with a punk band. That was the idea I'd made. So just putting it into that short room gives it that vibe as if it's been recorded in a room. And then the chorus, just add a bit of width because it was quite mono. Just to open it up a little bit in the stereo field to match the other vocal. And then after that, did I use Soothe again? I think I did. Let me go back. Yeah, I think I added more. But that frequency there as well. Let's listen to that. Yeah, it's like on speakers as well, if I had it really loud, that's like really grating sound coming through. So that's pretty much it for the vocals. Let's just bring this bass back on because this is for this. So as the dolphin bit's playing, you got that coming through. And we'll just play the section before this bit as well, and you'll hear how it goes back and forth. Perhaps we can just let that second bit run. So it goes back and forth like that. And then if we get to this bit, you can listen to that next bit as well, with the second vocal bit. So it's every 8 bars, it's kind of like changing stuff up. And we'll talk more about the arrangement as we go on to that.